Chapter 13, Religious Abuse. Domestic violence is wrong, and the Bible should never be interpreted to justify or excuse any form of violence. We need to face that the Bible has been used to justify violence in the home. Dr. Karen Sawada. Religious abuse, which is almost always used in combination with other types of abuse, is devastating. It can skew or destroy a victim's relationship with God and distort the victim's personal, divine identity as a child of God. It takes something that is holy and uses it to harm and control another human being. When religion is weaponized, victims often learn to fear or hate religious organizations and other people of faith. Religious abuse turns something that is holy and/or that once brought a victim joy into a device that terrorizes and taunts. Religious abuse can manifest in many ways. The key to identifying it is to ask if the abuser has been able to use religion to more easily perpetrate other types of abuse or to excuse their own actions or inactions. Previous chapters have provided many examples of how religious abuse is manifest. Here are a few more specific examples that illustrate the myriads of ways religion can be weaponized. Recontextualizing religious speech. Merlina often sat her young children down in the living room to watch elaborate televised sermons. The children were forced to hold still the entire time, despite some of them being so young that they were still learning to speak in full sentences. During the talks, Merlina would pick out a phrase, recontextualize it, and then use it to lecture her children about being sinners who were doomed to various ill fates. The children, who often didn't understand what the televised preachers were saying, did understand their mother's words and began to feel terrible about themselves and afraid for their future. Listening to these sermons became a source of anxiety. The children quickly became experts at cherry-picking one part of a message and transforming it into a personal sermon on shame and despair. Even after they had grown up, married, and had children of their own, hearing any sort of sermon struck fear in their hearts. Forbidding and sabotaging religious worship. After marrying, Franny's husband decided to leave the church. Franny wanted to continue attending church, but her husband forbade it. He refused to let Franny pay tithing, even with money she earned, and he refused to allow her to talk about religion. He destroyed the precious scriptures that she'd used while on her mission for her church. He used financial threats and told her if she ever attended church again, he would leave her on the street penniless. Once, after friends from church had stopped by the house, he repeatedly hit her until she promised not to talk with anyone from the church again. He used property damage, social abuse, physical abuse, and financial abuse in association with religion. This put Franny in a desperate position, with no access to the spiritual help she'd previously relied on through trials. Using ancient religious practices to promote immorality. Sean was a chronic pornography addict. Natalie was patient and understanding with her husband, even though she felt hurt and betrayed by his actions. Sean often blamed Natalie for his addictions, and he promoted the myth that his addiction stemmed from not having his sexual expectations sufficiently met. Sean's addictions worsened until he presented Natalie with a proposal. He wanted to bring more women into their marriage and begin a polygamist relationship. Natalie refused and was horrified by Sean's suggestion. Sean kept pushing this type of relationship, using both scripture and historical accounts to justify his idea. Natalie was so confused that she went to her minister for advice. Her minister, of course, confirmed that Sean's demands were cruel and in no way aligned with any part of their church's practices. In fact, he told her, anyone who is participating in a polygamist relationship is not only breaking the law of the land, but is at risk of having their church membership withdrawn. Accusing the victim of following Satan's plan. After Crystal filed for divorce, Doug delayed court proceedings and refused to sign paperwork, stating that a divorce was part of Satan's plan and that Crystal and her attorney would be damned to hell for destroying a marriage. Doug told Crystal that if their marriage was supposed to end, that God would end it without divorce. Years after the divorce was final, Doug sent Crystal an email the day before their son was supposed to get baptized. He requested that the ceremony be stopped until he was worthy of baptizing him. Doug had molested their son and was on restricted, supervised visits by court order. Crystal and their son also had a protective order against Doug. Thankfully, in this case, Crystal had full legal and physical custody, and the child was allowed to be baptized without Doug's interference. Other examples of religious abuse include, but are not limited to, using scripture or modern sermons to humiliate, embarrass, intimidate, or belittle others. Using scripture, modern sermons, church conference talks, or religious traditions to minimize or justify abuse. Demanding that children be raised with or without a certain religion. Preventing someone from practicing their religious beliefs. Isolating someone from their religious community in order to limit church activity or communal worship. Forcing someone to convert to a religion or leave their religion. Using religion to manipulate or bully someone in or out of religious practice. Forcing or coercing someone to give tithing or other offerings that they don't want to give, or not allowing them to pay tithing they want to. Using religion to force someone to be intimate or to have sex when they don't want to. Using religion to instill fear in someone. Using religion to cause shame or guilt in someone. Making fun of someone's religious beliefs and practices to undermine their identity, sense of spiritual self, and self-worth. Using religious teachings and traditions to convince someone to stay in an abusive relationship. Forcing someone to wear religious clothing or dress a certain way to maintain a cultural image, or not allowing them to wear their religious clothing. Using religious beliefs to withhold medical care or maintain an unhealthy diet or lifestyle. Using religion or the teachings of a spiritual leader as leverage for their position of authority to coerce someone to perform an act for the benefit of the abuser. Denying a victim education about their body due to spiritual beliefs. Using religion to control another person's behavior, decision-making, choice to have children or not to have children, their personal finances, etc.